So Trump has won the 2024 election. And the question is, why did Trump win? And also, what are the lessons that the left have to learn? I think the reasons why Trump won, I think it's threefold. I think, first of all, it was a rejection, not just of Kamala as a candidate, but of overt identity politics, of overt progressive politics. It was a rejection also of the mainstream media, and it was a rejection of extreme hyperbolic rhetoric. And the question that has to be asked for the left is, which avenue do we take now in the assessment? Do we believe and decide that half the country are neo-Nazi garbage scumbags? Or alternatively, do we, the left, eat some humble pie, recognize some of the errors that may have occurred, do a full analysis, and actually extend the empathy and the goodwill that the left are very good at talking about? And do we actually extend it, dare I say, to conservatives, dare I say, to the Republicans, to the many people who clearly voted for Trump? Do we land on they are irredeemable, evil, unconscionable people? Or do we have a bit of humility and assess? The first question ultimately is, well, why did Trump win? Well, the first point is it was a rejection of the overt political correctness, overt identity politics. It was a rejection of wokeism. It was a rejection of identity obsession that the left has engaged in. It was also a rejection of the mainstream media. We have been told time and time again by MSNBC, by CNN, by ABC, that Trump is Hitler. He is a neo-Nazi. In the week leading up to the election, when Trump held his rally in Madison Square Gardens, MSNBC showed rallies from 1939, the Nazis at Madison Square Garden, comparing it to Trump. We had Kamala, just a few weeks before the election, say to Anderson Cooper with a straight face that she believed Donald Trump was a fascist. And this was an unmitigated disaster for the left. I think it was a moral failing on the left. It was both a moral and a tactical failing. It's a tactical failing because telling half the electorate and a decent number of people who are undecided that you are evil, that you are fascists, it's not smart. It's finger wagging, it's hyperbolic, and it's contemptible. I thought what MSNBC did was borderline unforgivable. They unleashed something incredibly ugly. But this is part of the media story that has been pushed out there so much in recent years, and particularly in the last few weeks of the campaign, where the Kamala campaign went from the campaign of joy to, quite frankly, the campaign of hate. This was pure hatred of Donald Trump. And the American public, they rejected that. There is an idea that holds very strongly on the left, which is that the people who like Trump, they're in their little media bubble, that they watch too much Fox News or too much Joe Rogan, and that they're being manipulated because they're in a bubble and they don't even know they're being lied to. What if that was true also of the left? And if you are in an MSNBC or a CNN bubble, perhaps you are being lied to as well, and that you are not actually getting the full picture. Perfect example of this was the incident with Liz Cheney a few days before the election. Trump called her low IQ, which is gross and stupid. He called her that several times. And it's contemptible that he does. It's stupid. He shouldn't be calling her low IQ. And then he made this clumsy but very clear point that she isn't going into battle, that she doesn't have a son that's going into battle, and it's easy to send other boys to war when you don't have a gun pointed at you when you're in Washington. Okay? He made that point somewhat clunkily, but it was very, very clear. And as Bill Maher said that week, this is what the hippies used to say. CNN and MSNBC ran with the story that Trump was calling for her to be shot. This was a bare-faced lie. And I know there are many, and this is just one example of a litany, and there are many Democrats out there who now believe that Trump, seriously, was calling for a woman, a political rival, to be assassinated. It was not true. It was a lie. And those people who believe that are the people today who really, truly believe that we have now entered in the Third Reich, that we've entered into a fascist era, and are terrified. But it's because I believe that they have been lied to. They have been lied to in the bubble that they are in the exact same way that they assume that the Trump supporters have been lied to because of their bubble. So what are the lessons for the left? There's basically, I think, a fork in the road at this point. The left have to make a decision. Do we extend the kind of empathy and goodwill and the willing to understand and have humility in defeat, have the humility to maybe question some of the mistakes that have been made and take time to assess and to understand what kind of party we are and why those errors occurred? And crucially, to extend the kind of empathy and understanding and goodwill that we are so good at talking about, yet we cannot extend to conservatives. There's that avenue that we can take. There's another avenue, which is half the country are reprehensible, racist neo-Nazis, and that they are contemptible. And half the country, we should just have contempt. If we land on that, it will be a disaster. And I think the party will be lost for a generation. I think it's really important that the left recognise that this was not simply a rejection just of Kamala as a candidate, but it was a rejection of the overt left-wing political, quote-unquote, woke politics. It was a rejection of the media's hyperbolic narratives, and that the left are at a fork in the road, and that the left must now have a choice. Do we have some humility and extend goodwill and good faith and try to listen to the conservatives, to listen to the Trump voters? Or do we decide to land on hatred and disgust? I think the latter will be a disaster. So let me know, I'd love to hear from you. Why do you think Trump won the election? And what are the lessons, if indeed there are any, that the left has to learn?